Hi everyone, I am Decano, and for this video, I will be discussing one of the classifications of civil engineering services or engineering services in general. So in this playlist, we have 7 videos, each discussing one of the 7 major classifications of engineering services. So let's start with my discussion, which is all about consultations, research, investigations, and reports. So these are the services dealing primarily with collecting, interpreting, and reporting information, as well as formulating conclusions and making recommendations. So under nito, we have 8 major services offered. Number 1 is the preliminary and feasibility investigations and reports. Number 2, planning studies. Number 3, appraisals, valuation, and rate studies. Number 4, assistance in financial matters. Number 5, materials engineering and equipment tests. Number 6, direct personnel services. Number 7, research development. And lastly, special services. So, yung first natin is the preliminary and feasibility investigations and reports. So, these are the services that precede the authorization of a project. Ibig sabihin, ito yung mga works or services na ino-offer ng civil engineering ng mga civil engineers bago yung conduct of the project. So kasama dito yung planning, yung estimation of project costs, no? So sabi dito, these services involve extensive investigations, analysis of conditions, and comparison of several possible plans. So factors to be investigated may include the project's impact to the environment, cost of operation, life cost or life cycle cost, financing considerations, and expected revenues. So itong factors no na in-investigate during the planning stage can still change depending on the requirements of the client. So did you know that the term civil engineering was first used in the 18th century to distinguish the newly recognized profession from military engineering? So sinabi dito na newly recognized profession kasi before, yung civil engineers, yung works nila were mainly focused on military activities. For example, yung pag-build ng mga towers, no, or defenses. So after being recognized as a separate profession, civil engineering functions became focused on public works, and not only focused on public works but also became complex, no? So after several years, yung services offered by civil engineers hindi na siya yung limited sa public works na kagaya ng dati. For example, yung paggawa ng mga residential buildings, no, yung roads, bridges, mas dumami na siya hanggang ngayon sa present day. Napakadami na ng services na ino-offer ng civil engineers or ng civil engineering profession, and i-discuss yung iba sa next videos natin. So for this next one naman, for planning studies, these are the services that include the broad areas of developing the engineering requirements of master plans for long-range capital improvement programs. So halos same lang siya dun sa nauna, pero yung pinagkaiba lang no is dito sa planning studies, more focused siya sa pag-develop ng engineering requirements for certain plans. So under dito, we have land development plans, urban plans, regional plans, investigation of environmental conditions, preparation of environmental impact studies. So yung services offered under the planning studies na involved yung paggawa ng mga plans for land development or yung residential plans, no, yung regional plans mas malaki na yon, or yung investigation of environmental conditions. So dito sa Philippines, we have several laws that ensure rational land use and sustainable urban and regional development. And meron ako ditong nilista na tatlo. First is the Executive Order number 72, providing for the preparation of implementation of the comprehensive land use plans of local government units pursuant to the Local Government Code of 1991 and other pertinent laws. Memorandum Circular number 54, prescribing the guidelines of Section 20 Republic Act 7160 authorizing cities and municipalities to reclassify lands into non-agricultural uses. And number 3, we have Executive Order number 124, establishing priorities and procedures in evaluating areas for land conversions in regional agricultural or industrial centers, tourism development areas, and sites for socialized housing. So itong laws na to, no, pinoprotect nito not only the clients but also the engineers, the workers, and the future occupants or users of a certain project. So yung next natin, we have appraisal, valuation, and rate studies. So ito naman yung services include the investigation of analysis of existing conditions, operating costs, overhead costs, and costs of financing and revenues. So dito naman medyo may kinalaman na siya sa pera, no, sa pag-monitor ng mga ginagastos na sa pag-conduct ng isang project. So halos same lang siya dito sa next natin, which is the assistance in financial matters. Yung services offered naman dito include the evaluation of capabilities of existing or proposed facilities to meet present and projected future needs, evaluation of statement of probable costs, estimates of annual revenue requirements, and the determination of appropriate rates to provide the said income. So, under these two, yung appraisal, valuation, and rate studies, and dito sa assistance in financial matters, yung civil engineer or yung services na ino-offer niya is magre-revolve around financing. No? So, mahalaga rin na yung civil engineer has ample knowledge when it comes to financing or economics, for example. No? For the next one, we have material engineering and equipment tests. So services include testing of materials and equipment under established codes and standards, specialized examination equipment and materials used in construction industry, and other inspections and monitoring required by a client. So dito na papasok yung technicalities of being a civil engineer. So yung lahat ng natutunan natin when it comes to materials and equipment tests, no, yung sa surveying natin, for example yung sa pag-survey ng land, pag-measure or pag-estimate ng land areas, papasok na yan dito. So we have here some examples of the equipments used by civil engineers. We have concrete testing equipment, aggregate testing equipment, steel testing equipment, and survey instruments. So nakadepende yan sa required ng client. So pwedeng hinire ka ng client just to do the surveying. So yung gagamitin mo lang is yung survey instruments, no? So pwede naman na ilagay ka ng client sa mismong field and you have to test the quality of aggregates, no? So yung aggregate testing equipment naman yung gagamitin mo. So depende talaga siya sa required ng client. For the next one, we have the direct personal services. These are the services that include assistance in preparation of or for legal proceedings, appearances before courts or commissions to render expert opinions and conclusions, and investigations of technical matters where specialized civil engineering knowledge, experience, and judgment are required. So there are instances na before ma-authorize yung isang project, kailangan mo nang humarap sa legal proceedings ng client mo or yung company na pinagtatrabahuan ng client mo. So, pwede siyang mag-hire ng tao na merong knowledge in the said field. So, pwede siyang mag-hire ng civil engineers for that purpose. Or pwede rin namang mag-hire ng civil engineer just to investigate technical matters, no? Where yung specialized knowledge ng isang civil engineer is required. Pwede rin namang maging supervisor lang yung civil engineer in an ongoing project. And next, we have research and development. So these are specialized investigations and data gathering from existing resources or through laboratory works. So iba to sa research and development na ginawa natin nung mga nakaraan, nung high school tayo. Kasi dito, the research and development is focused on civil engineering purposes. So there are two purposes. of research and development. The first one is the development of new construction materials and methods from concept to commercialization. So yung research and development dito is not only not only focused on theories, no, or yung pag-develop ng materials, but rather in-extend nila to commercialization. So yung kapag meron ng na-develop or na-innovate, for example, na isang construction material, kailangan malabas yun sa market para magamit din siya in future projects. So the second one naman is the improvement of construction materials and methods through extensive studies to reduce total construction cost and improve quality. So yung research and development natin, hindi lang siya focus sa paggawa ng concept and pag-commercialize, no? So yung purpose din niya is to reduce the construction cost or i-cut yung expenses na posibleng magamit in the production of certain materials. I have an example here, the self-healing concrete. Medyo familiar na tayo dito, na-discuss na natin to when we were in first year. So yung self-healing concrete has the purpose of creating a concrete that can heal yung possible na cracks. So out na to sa market, pero masyadong mahal siya, so medyo konti pa lang yung gumagamit sa kanya. And in addition, yung self-healing concrete, nag-undergo pa rin siya sa research and investigations. So that's one example. And lastly, we have the special services, or parang summary na rin to ng mga na-discuss ko kanina. We have value engineering, appraisal and valuation, environmental evaluations, topographic sounding and boundary survey engineering, toxic and hazardous waste evaluation, operational assistance, materials process design, computer modeling, permit and application services, sales and marketing services na inulit, representation of municipal or private entities in projects proposed privatization, traffic engineering, safety engineering, forensic engineering for structural and other failures, load testing, and pilot studies. So dito marirealize natin na yung works ng civil engineers or yung services na ino-offer nila, sobrang laki ng range nila. Nag-range siya from simple services like yung permit application, for example, hanggang dun sa medyo complex na services like yung representation of municipal or private entities in projects proposed privatization. So dahil dito makikita natin or malalaman natin na yung services offered by civil engineers is sobrang broad for this classification alone. So sa next classifications na i-discuss in the next videos, makikita nyo yung marami pang services offered by civil engineers, no? So that's all for the classifications of civil engineers under consultations, research, investigations, and reports. And this has been Decano. So thank you.